Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of all of your favorite Gecko Podcasts, the New Cow Corner, obviously. Mark and I have another special guest for you guys. They're all special. Every person we have on this podcast in one which way, shape, or form is special. Everyone in this hobby is special, and I usually say this at the end of the podcast, but today I'm going to say it in the beginning. If you have one gecko or you have 1,000 geckos, you matter. You matter, and you're a part of this hobby. Your opinions matter. Your observations matter. You matter. Don't forget that. Okay, so today we have c3creatures with us. Connor.
Yes.
c3creatures. Okay, guys. Let's welcome Connor to the show. Can you give us a quick rundown or breakdown on, who you are, how you got into this hobby? An elevator pitch of sorts, I guess, is what I always say to people. A quick little introduction. Doesn't have to be quick, but an introduction to you, from you.
Sure, no problem. I'm Connor. I am a very small scale at this point, a new cow breeder, mostly working with gargoyles. It is my side hustle. I would love to someday have it be what I primarily do and then do my other work more part-time. But right now it's my part-time, and I've always had lots and lots of animals. When I was born, my parents had 3 dogs, 2 cats, and a rabbit, and that was sort of the baseline for the animals that we had. So I really kind of grew up with lots of animals and love having lots of animals in my home. The least amount of animals I've ever had as an adult was a dog, a cat, and 4 horses. So
Not too bad.
it's kind of all I want to spend my time on.
Good for you. That's awesome. So how did you get into geckos? How did geckos come across your radar? New cow geckos specifically.
New cow specifically. So I had gotten into snakes. My dad had, after 35 years of trying to convince my mom to get a snake, had convinced her, and I kind of came along for the ride and ended up with a snake, and then ended up with 20 snakes. And then I had gotten a green tree python and had a kind of small enclosure for him when he was really, really little, because I bought him as a really small neonate. And then I had this empty enclosure and was like, well, what am I going to put in here? And so I got a Yuri V, and that was my first new cow. And that kind of started it. And then I was like, well, I've got all this gecko food, and this little guy I can't hardly make a small enough amount for him. Really, I need another animal. And so I got a gargoyle, and had just the two of them were my only new cows for a while. And then I was doing my primary work, and then I had a big contract, and I had sort of reorganized all my time and my finances around having this big contract. And somebody new came in, felt like they didn't need me, and canceled my contract with 2 weeks notice. And I was like, what am I going to do with all my time and all this stuff? And so my husband very sweetly said, well, maybe you might want to do a little bit of breeding. And we agreed that I had a female gargoyle. Was like, well, we'll get a male. And then I was like, well, maybe I should have a trio. And then very quickly that turned into like, let's see, I have 9 pairs of gargs who are going this season. And yeah.
That's awesome.
I move fast.
That's awesome.
He was like, I thought we said 2.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And huge shout out to him too, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Support your girls, guys. If she wants to do this, support her. You'd want her to support you.
Nothing if not supportive. Yeah. He occasionally is like, I don't think we need chickens on top of everything else. But that's really the only thing he's ever pumped the brakes on. So, and that's fair.
Awesome.
That's fair. Yeah.
Cool. So what made you choose gargs over crested geckos or chihuahuas or anything else? What is it about them?
Yeah, so I gonna like lose people here. I initially didn't like crested geckos at all. I was like, I don't get it. I don't like them. It doesn't work for me. And so, but I liked gargoyles. And so, I mean, I think I had, I don't know, 6 pairs of gargs or something like that before I got my first crested. And I went to the All American in Colorado and I talked to Brian with Altitude and I found one of his that I really liked. And that was sort of the end of that. Now I have a bunch. I still have more gargoyles than cresteds, and I'm much more, it's kind of like cats and dogs for me, like I like, I've never met a gargoyle that I didn't like. I don't like every crested gecko that I come across. I don't like the way they all look. I don't like the way that some of them act. Whereas gargoyles, I've kind of never met one that I didn't like.
That's awesome. It's one of the most alluring things of this new cow hobby, if you will, is there's literally a taste or a flavor for everyone. Everyone. It's interesting. Now, not to get off topic, but I have a question about that show. How did you like that All American Reptile show?
It's
I hear
the
they're
best.
like
It's
the
so
best.
great.
So everybody said.
And I'm in an area where we don't have reptile shows, so we had our first reptile show in 20 years in October of last year. Mm-hmm.
You're not in New Mexico, are you?
I am in New Mexico. I know you guys talked to Chad pretty recently.
No.
Yeah, so I'm in New Mexico. We have 2 shows a year now. It's very exciting. So the All American was the closest show for me to go to, and my parents have a place in Denver, so it's easy for me to go and stay with them. And I have a friend, someone I've been friends with for like 10 years who breeds super dwarf retics, who vends at the All American. And
nice.
Yeah, I'd love to get in someday. We'll see. Right now, the spring show was full. I'm hoping for October, but we'll see.
You'll do it.
Yeah.
You'll do it. Got any questions, Mark? Or I'll keep going, bro.
Well, I would like to know, since you're starting out and stuff like that for the viewers, what is one of the biggest challenges that you would say you faced up until now? Deciding that you're going to breed, starting your whole business. What is one of the biggest challenges you face?
Yeah, not spending all of my money on animals, which I will acknowledge I haven't done a great job at. I think sort of focusing, and I'm not super focused. I'm not someone who has like, I'm only working on this thing, but I think staying focused to a degree on like, these are the things that I'm looking for. These are the things that I want. And not just getting completely sucked into like, oh, well, I like that one. And, oh, I could do this with that, and getting sort of pulled too far apart. It's easy, I think, to get excited about the whole thing and get, I don't want to say in over your head, but get pulled in a lot of different directions and end up with animals that maybe aren't exactly what you're looking for or aren't exactly right for you, or to kind of get excited about certain elements of an animal without looking at the whole thing or taking the time to look at the whole thing. I bought a super cool yellow base, black stripe gargoyle gecko with phantom eyes. I was super, super excited about him. I have a female that's a black and white, and her white is sort of creamy, who's also phantom eyed. And I was like super stoked I was going to pair them together and got him in. And I know the breeder that I got him from was breeding him. It's a breeder who's relatively well known, but he had some bite issues that I couldn't see. It wasn't like overbite, underbite. It was like kind of cocked to the side. And you couldn't see it unless you really looked at his mouth. And I'm not going to breed something that has conformation issues, like a bite issue to that degree. So I ended up selling him as a pet. I was bummed about that. So I think just like slowing down, taking the time, really looking at the animals with that critical lens, rather than just like, oh my gosh, a black and yellow phantom eye, that's so cool, that'll work so well with this, and just like diving in, really taking the time to make sure you've seen enough pictures and all that.
Yeah, that's very important. That's looking beyond the deli cup. Beyond the deli cup.
For sure. And I maybe am more critical than somebody else might be. I have horses, I've bred horses. That stuff is something that I look for. That's something we look for in them, because the bigger the animal, the more those issues are a problem. But I don't want to breed something that has really serious structural issues. And to me, that's different from like, oh, hey, this, I like this Cresty for this, that, or the other. It doesn't have the best head structure, but hey, I know I can breed it to something from Nicoletta and like we can solve that in a generate. It's not so much like choosing to navigate those issues as it is like, hey, this is actually not something we want to be reproducing.
It's awesome that you're, relatively new and not ethical. I mean, that's awesome because I know a lot of people that would be like, wouldn't really, they probably find a way to justify it, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to point any fingers or say anybody in particular. I'm just saying I can only imagine if someone put that much into an animal and they only have a couple and they're like, damn, got to see what it does. Or, I mean, it's cool that you didn't even risk it. That's huge. It says a lot about what you're doing.
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
Awesome. So talking about those gargs and some of these things you're working for, and I know you said you're not working for any one feature or trait or anything, but what are you working for? What would you like to accomplish? What is your goal with these things? I mean, I'd imagine it's not to just produce more. What
No.
would you like to do?
Yeah, I really want to produce animals that are great pets. Even if we have stuff that's really, really cool, we're breeding for really incredible things. The vast majority of the animals that we breed are going to end up in pet homes. And so I want to make sure that I'm producing animals and raising animals in a way that gives them the best chance of success than in a pet home. So I won't breed anything whose personality I don't like.
I was just going to ask that. So you believe it's inheritable personality?
I mean, I think,
does too,
I'll give them some time. I've got some, especially with the Crusties that are a little more prey. It can take some time for them to settle in, and I'll give them that time. I'm not just gonna like axe everything that's a little flighty, but in my mind, it's like, okay, cool. Well, if in a year you haven't chilled out, you're not right for my program. I mean, behavior and personality and all that is inheritable in everything else. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. It's not logical for us to assume that it's not in geckos or any other reptile. And I would rather err on the side of being wrong about that, and breeding that way than not. Personally, that's sort of just my MO. Like um I'd rather be wrong about something and be doing things in a way that I think is ethical, that I feel good about, than look back and wish that I'd made a different choice.
It's huge. It's awesome. I respect that. It's huge.
When you're looking and shopping for gargoyles, like, what are 3 things that are on your list to look for?
Yeah. So I'll look at like what are the pictures that people have posted? Like, are they a lot of times with gargoyles, people are holding them in pictures. I like that personally. I want to see that animal is handleable. It's less of an issue, I think, with gargoyles than it is with some other species. Structure, I want to see that there aren't any like serious oh my gosh, adorable. I want to see that there aren't any really serious conformation issues. And then kind of the icing on that for me would be like, does this animal have really spectacular structure? Does it kind of meet a minimum standard? And then, where are we going above that? And then color for me would be the last piece. I mean, I'm not going to buy something that I think is ugly or has color that's something that doesn't work in one of my projects or something like that. I don't really like calling them projects, but I don't know what other term to use. I sort of bristle at projects. I don't really like that, but that doesn't fit with anything that I have. But color for me would be sort of the last. If I find something that's the perfect, fancy pants, red stripe, whatever, but it has crap head structure and a hip dip, I'm not going to buy it because I'm not going to breed an animal. I mean, great pet, but I'm not going to breed something that has poor structure.
Awesome. You don't hear that much. That's huge. You know?
She's around some serious breeders, you could
I
tell.
am. I'm lucky to have some people have access to some people who know what they're talking about, like Mark.
What's some of your gargoyle? What are some of the projects that you have in your gargoyle programs?
Yeah, so I've got some red stripe stuff. What the things that I'm really excited about are the pastels, and most of my pastels I'm growing up. So I really love the idea of the ones that fire down pink. And I've got a purple female. She fires down kind of a lavender color, fires up like a red, but sort of a maroony red, like it's got a lot of blue in it. I've got her paired with a male who mostly, when he fires up, he's got like a little bit of gray flecking, but he's mostly a white base. She's a bicolor blotch with that like purple base, and then he's got red blotches. But when he's fired down, and up to a lesser degree, but mostly when he's fired down, his blotches have this kind of like pink blushing around them. So I don't know what they're gonna do, but I think that's kind of cool. I'm excited to see what
It
that
is
might
very
do.
cool.
I have to say though, right, and I don't know if you agree with me, Ant, but for somebody that's starting out and somebody that's coming into the hobby, the amount of attention and what you're looking at, and to the degree of how you're explaining it, that is very refreshing to see, because you don't hear that a lot from somebody that's new. You know,
Very
it's
precocious, I guess.
the,
Very, very.
yes,
Thank you.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Which is
great.
awesome.
That's
Which is great.
awesome.
It's what the hobby
Yeah.
needs. You know, not just
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
making animals. We need strategic, planned, and it's hard to say because what one person prefers doesn't necessarily have to be what the other prefers,
Sure.
which is fine. But as long as you're doing something with intention, I believe that matters, and especially with gargoyles, with anything. But there's a lot to be done, a lot to still be discovered, as far as I'm concerned with gargoyles, and it takes that type of work to get there, I guess. Instead of with crested geckos, everybody, with all due respect, kind of made a giant mess just to refine it. Like there was
Yeah.
just
Take it
everything
easy
happened
though.
to reel
All
it
right.
back in. It didn't have to be that way.
Yeah,
Let's
Mark,
not
it didn't have to be that way.
let's not
Well,
gargoyle
it's the
group on
truth.
top
It's
of me
not
now.
it's not necessarily a bad thing. You didn't know. Same thing with ball pythons.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just
Yeah.
didn't know. So now that we do know and have a little bit of information, and not that they're exactly the same, but it's good to use as a model, to see what happened in this hobby or community versus how we can go about it in this one. It's
Yeah.
and again, I think there's a lot to be discovered, a lot to be had. Very similar things. Working with structure. Different animals, different types of things, but it's refreshing to see how you're doing it, to say the least. It's
Thank you.
It's also great for others that are coming
yes.
into the hobby to witness somebody that on this level, and the amount of attention that they're putting into, like, you can tell whoever is teaching, you are actually learning. You're paying attention and you're putting it to use. Whereas there's a lot of people that come into the hobby and they just want to breed, and you
Just
talk to
make
them.
animals.
I hatched 50 eggs yesterday, but you
Like,
can't
that's
have that
the
conversation.
achievement. It's
Yeah,
not
that's
Yeah.
really
great.
a huge achievement to hatch. It's not. I mean,
Yeah.
I
You
do it
learn
by
that
accident,
too.
if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah,
But you
that
do
you're
learn
it.
that
not really
also.
involved in that process. It's not
Yeah,
happening whether you're there or not.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
but to create animals with intention is all the difference. It's
Yeah.
another thing that's great also that I caught is your most exciting project is your pastel pinks, and you're growing them all up. So
Yeah.
on top of you starting that program for pastel pinks, you're also training your eye to see what a baby looks like and how it grows and changes and develops. Because a lot jump into I want the breeders, and then you think they're all going to be pastel pinks, and you may not know what it looks like as a baby compared to an adult. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
thank
great.
you. I think particularly with the pastels, I mean, I know some people, David, Paul, they have been working with the pastels with intention, but a lot of times when the pastels come out, I just bought a bunch from bought like four. I just bought four from Kylie with Gargoyle Queen, and like they're super cool and I'm really excited about them. They did not come out of pastel pairings. They're sort of that roll of the dice that Paul talks about. Um, and I think, they're just, especially with pastel, you're gonna have more of that because people haven't been working with it to the same degree that things like red stripe have been worked with, where we've got that real saturation of color, and that where you can pair a red stripe from red stripe lineage to another red stripe from red stripe lineage, and you've got a pretty good shot of having those babies be red stripe animals. I think my understanding is we're not there yet with pastels, and certainly the ones that I have, and I have a good number, we're looking at, maybe second generation of that being where this breeding groups that I will be putting together will be this second generation of it being focused on, as opposed to like, oh, hey, that's really cool. um,
Do you? Yeah, I have talked to Paul about this, and I have my theories, and I believe, people work so hard with these animals to produce those reds that they're overly saturated in all types of animals. So it's going to be a hard time again reverse engineering what has happened. And it's the same thing with Chihuahuas. I try to produce animals without huge white collars, and all I do is produce animals with huge white collars because the genes are so plugged into all of these lines that it's, again, I'm like reverse engineering what everyone did to get away from it. And I feel the
right.
same thing with these reds. But again, if you're popping out these pastels, what I'm trying to get at, to sum it up, is what do you think it is? Do you think it's a form of hypomelanism? What type of observations have you made? Because I think they are super interesting and beyond gorgeous. They are beautiful animals, and it blows my mind that no one has really been hyper focused on producing them and gotten more answers. And everyone I speak to just doesn't know, And what type of observations have you made? What do you think?
I think that it is one of the phenotypes that is out there. I think, they're not new. I think the focus on them is new, especially when people sort of were saturated and steeped in the red stripe stuff. And I have a lot of red stripe stuff. I really like it. I have a Deadpool baby that I'm super excited about, that's growing up and looking better every day. But I think just like we have stripe and blotch and this and that, to me, it's one of the things that
You know,
that is naturally occurring, and it's, are we going to be, how are we selectively breeding for it? And even when you're selectively breeding for other things, you're still going to have things pop up, and I think that's sort of where a lot of what we have for pastels is coming out now, or has historically, because when they're fired up, they're not super exciting. It's when they're fired down, and we have other things where we want them to be fired up because that's where it looks cool. And I think, with a lot of them, when they're fired up, they're just kind of rusty red-ish, brown, and then when they fire down, they're like pink and orange, and it's super cool. Um, so, I for me, I wanted I want to focus on breeding animals that I like, breeding animals that I want to have in my collection, animals that I looked for that I couldn't find when I was trying for new things, looking for animals to add to my breeding, program. I don't, I, I'm a little anti-establishment kind of in general. And so I don't really have an interest in doing what everybody else is doing. I think that was a little bit of my like pushback on Crusties to begin with, was like everybody likes these, so not for me. Um, but you have to do your own thing. Nobody got all these like ball python breeders who want to be the next Justin Koboka, and like that's not gonna happen. There already is a Bob Vu and a Justin and like they are the people who are at the pinnacle of that, and you're
Blaze
not
your
going
own
to come in
path.
and be that. You got to do your own thing. And I wanted to do something that felt authentic to me and that I really liked, and that wasn't what everybody else was doing, because that's not authentic to who I am. Doing what everybody else is doing isn't my thing either. So um yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Trendsetter. So
Love it. You get no complaints out of me. I
nope.
am Mr. Against the Grain all day.
Yeah.
So are you a stripe or a blotch?
I want to be a blotch person, but I'm not. I like them. I have them. There's certain ones where I'm like, okay, I really like that one. And when I go in the room where I keep most of the geckos and I look at them, they are not the ones that I'm the most excited about. Um, I like the stripes better myself. Yeah, I do.
I mean, have you allowed yourself to think that maybe there's something other than stripes and
Thin stripes?
blotches? I mean,
Yeah, I have a pair that I put together this season that I'm pretty excited about, that I've got one baby on the ground from, and then several sets of eggs, who are like an aberrant stripe pair. So the male is a bicolor orange and yellow, and he's got some kind of striping, but then it dissolves into these like circle blotchy things on his
bacon
sides.
like that bacon project dish type, or whatever they're calling a clown
Um,
project,
I mean,
that type of thing.
sort of, not really, because it's just the color that's in circles. And then the female is kind of another, I guess she's sort of leaning more towards that. To call her a clown would be way exaggerating reality. But she's got these sort of, she doesn't have any color on her back. She's striped, but then she has these like sort of L-shaped or like fishhook shaped red orange that are on her shoulders. So she's pretty cool. So I've got them together. I don't know. I could get a bunch of really boring stripe animals with no cool
Maybe not.
color or anything, but maybe not. We'll
How many
see.
people have tried to not create stripes or blotches? That's the way I look at
Yeah.
it. Like, how many people have tried to not do what everyone else is doing? And so,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think I noticed for Kylie with Gargoyle Queen, a lot of her stuff, she's pairing stripes with super blotches. She's not always stripe to stripe and blotch to blotch. And I think she ends up with a lot of really cool animals because of that. Not exclusively, not selective breeding exclusively for a particular trait. I mean, that's where you
I
then
like
have
it.
the opportunity for something new to emerge. Um,
I like it. So, you're producing animals, right? Like, you're producing
mhm,
yours. Have you
yeah.
been doing? I mean, I guess I should know the answer to this, but what are your observations with the Phantomine? Like, have you been able to reproduce Phantomine animals, or is it too soon? Are you noticing
It's
anything with
too
that?
soon for me. So I have my one female who is Phantomai. I have like one egg from her. She's not a very good producer. That's it. Circling back to Mark's question. When you're talking to people that you're buying from, like make sure that you're on the same page about what particular things mean. Because I bought this female and the guy's like, yeah, she's a great producer. I'm like, okay, cool. So I have an idea in my mind of what that means in terms of like egg laying and consistency. I wouldn't have not bought her because she's super cool. But he's like, yeah, she produces like 6 to 8 good eggs a season. In my mind, that's not a great producer. And she definitely has something in terms of how her reproductive system works. She lays every other time, she lays 1 egg instead of 2.
Female does that too.
So I don't know enough about how, I mean, obviously she's got 1 ovary, 1 follicle that isn't producing at the same rate as the other. Whether that's because of scarring from something that happened, I don't know. But she's a seasoned female. It's not her first season. She's had many, many. And so like for me, a good producer is not 6 to 8 eggs a season. A good producer is I have a female who laid eggs in December and laid eggs the first week in February. Like she lays every 6 weeks, no matter what.
Is that the norm for gargs? I was always, and I don't breed many. I have 3 gargoyles, but I was always under the impression that they were more like lychees or chihuahuas. Do they lay every month? I really don't know the answer to that, if I'm being honest.
So my most prolific female lays 2 eggs every 6 weeks, but it's clockwork like I don't need to look in there it's like, oh, it's been 6 weeks and she's in there and she's laid. I think that's not the norm. I think she's more prolific than the norm, but it's also not normal to lay, I don't know, every 1 egg every 16 weeks. And then in 8 weeks you lay 2 and, like that's not normal either. So I think it's somewhere in the middle personally.
Well, now we're talking about eggs and on that path, how are you incubating? Do you have any special techniques or methods with incubating? How does your incubating process look?
No, so I'm still refining it. I have done what everybody else does, the tackle box thing. I've decided that I don't like that because then if you've got some Pangea hatch or Rapashi super hatch or whatever that's in there, and if you have an egg that's icky, then you have to like figure out how to get that stuff out. And that's really a pain. So I just bought all of these, like, they call them snackle boxes. They have them at Target and places. It's like a snack tackle box, basically. And they had these ones on sale for like $5. And I bought a bunch of those. And it's basically like a big container. Yeah. And then there's all these little Tupperware in it. So it's like a big thing, like a tackle box, like many people incubate in. And then it has little individual containers in it. So my idea with that is that I've still got the container. Because I don't have enough space to have a bunch of little containers floating around like that. I can't with that. And so my thought with the sort of snackle box idea is that each of those little containers, I can put a clutch in, and then when they hatch, I can take it out. I can get that clean that hatching material. Yeah. So that is my most recent eggs I put in that. So, and then I'm like slowly going to transition over to that. Cause everybody's like, oh yeah, you can reuse the hatching stuff, which of course you can, but like, how do you get it out? And if it's not gross, then fine. But I have one female that she's laid a couple times for me, and her doesn't appear to have any kind of calcium deficits, but the shells of her eggs are not very calcified. And so with those, I haven't successfully hatched any of her eggs, and they end up like leaking, and then the leaking stuff gets fuzzy and it's really yucky. And then it's like, well, then that's next to some good eggs from somebody else. And, so I'm trying to figure out ways to make it more sanitary, easier to mess with without having to hatch in deli cups, which I don't want to do because our house is not very big and I've sort of taken over I've taken over a room already, and I don't have the space to have like a set of shelves that has a bunch, and we've got cats, and so they're like forever in there taking, I mean, there's no way that deli cups wouldn't be getting pushed off of stuff, and yeah.
You'll find your way. Some of this stuff
Yeah.
is eternally evolving. Like
For
I've been
sure.
doing it 8 years now, and there's some things that I do differently every year. I just haven't found a way
Yeah,
yet.
and what works for one person doesn't work for
Absolutely.
somebody else. What works for
Absolutely.
one season doesn't work another time. You gotta do what works and be flexible, I think, not get so locked down on like, well, this is what, so and so, this is how Mark said I have to do it. And, or this is what I did last year. It has to be like this. I don't really like that way of being. So I'm trying to be flexible.
That's one thing I always say. Don't take my word as the Bible. There's many ways to do things.
Yep.
What's out of your collection right now? What's your favorite? It's probably hard for you to pick a favorite, but what's your favorite gargoyle gecko that you're most excited about?
Ooh.
Out of pressure's on.
That's a
Got
good
him.
question. I don't know.
Got
I'm
him.
really excited about, well, I have two that I'm super excited about. One of whom I got at a show for free. The guy gave him to me.
Wow. Wow.
Because I was buying, so it's a pastel. I was buying a red stripe animal from him that wasn't expensive. It was like $400 gecko. So a nicer. And I was like, hey, I want this little pastel one too. And it was a wholesale gecko that he had marked at $100. And he's like, you can just have it. And he's got bright blue eyes and he fires down pink and he fires up like, I don't know, rusty oranges. And like, he doesn't fire up like a full rust red. He fires up a nice pastel and fires down pink. And he's got bright blue eyes. So I'm super excited about him. And then I'm excited about a couple of the ones that I just got pretty recently from Kylie. I think they're going to be really cool. I'm excited to see how they grow up. And then if I can produce pastels from them, because they aren't from pastel lineage necessarily. And then I've got some Pink Floyd babies and from David, and a Kirby baby from David, and some from his Pink Females group. So I've got a lot. I mean, I don't have one. I would say like if there's one where I'm like excited to watch it grow, it's my Deadpool baby, because every time I get it out, it's different. It's brighter. It's got more color on its face. It's fun to watch it evolving. From like a little, I mean, it was like this big when I got it. And that's been really fun. But I think I'm most excited about some of the other ones.
So how many do you have altogether, if you don't mind me asking? How many animals do you think you have altogether? Everything. Babies, everything.
I don't know, probably like 150 maybe.
No, that's not small, but that's definitely not. That's a nice.
No, I mean it's
That's huge.
not, yeah, it's not crazy to me. So I have stepkids, and the littlest one was like, "How many geckos do we have?" And I was sort of very like slowly bringing them in and like not always sharing that. And so he counted, and then he went and told on me to my husband about how many there are, and my husband was like, "That's impossible. You counted wrong." And my youngest stepson is like, he's the sweetest kid, and he's like not always totally on it. Like sometimes he's a little like Kelso from that 70s show where you're like, dude, that's not like that one plus one is an 11, you know that, right? And so my husband was like, honey, I'm sure you're wrong. I'm sure you counted wrong. Um, and he didn't. It was me. So
When
Yeah,
so over 100.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like jumped by something earlier. I went to talking about eggs
Yeah.
and incubating and totally forgot to ask about your setup. Are you using lay boxes or are you using bins and substrate? Walk us through that if you don't mind. How are you keeping
Yeah,
your animals, and what have you found works best for your pairs versus grow outs and all that stuff? Your
sure.
enclosure.
So I keep my single gargs I keep in the Container Store
Okay.
thingies, whatever, those like it drawers.
Mhm.
I find that works the best for me because I can really clean. I could like to be able to pull them out, dump them, take them outside, hose them down. Um, I am not particularly good at bioactives. I really like the idea of bioactive stuff. I have made a couple bioactive enclosures for some of my snakes. Essentially, I have just spent a lot of money to make something that looks kind of cool. And that's it. Like, I don't have the science dialed in. I don't have like the magic touch for it. So I knew that wasn't going to work for me with the breeding. And essentially I have them in like a little office area that's pretty like narrow and small. Our house is not very big. And so I had to find something that was space efficient. So I keep my crested pears in that, and I keep my single gargoyles in those. I use the shoe boxes from like the Amazon with the flop down lid for my grow outs. I keep my little babies even smaller because I've found that helps with handleability. If we can really like show them, hey, like you're safe, you have everything you need, nothing's going to get you. I find that makes a big difference for their personality. And I will, even when I get babies that are pretty small, when I buy them from other people, I will put them in those little in a smaller enclosure because I think it helps them settle in, and it helps put weight on them because they're not worried about, I mean, I'll have like my little baby gargoyles are just fat as ticks. They've got like big old bellies, because they feel safe enough to eat. And I want them to thrive and grow at a good rate. And I have some that I've gotten from other people who aren't. I have a female who, fortunately, I really like her, but she is 3 years old and 25 grams. Like, she's tiny, tiny. I don't think she'll ever be big enough to breed. At this point, I don't think I would breed her because that's not great. That's not a good sign from a genetic perspective. I don't know what she would be like if she had been started differently. That's sort of like, we'll never know. Um, and then I keep my gargoyle pairs in these stackable things that I found at Target that are like 2 by 1.5 by 1.5 or something. They're
Nice.
like a little storage thing, and I melted holes in them and put screen in to get enough airflow. I've had to, it's really dry here, and
Just gonna ask.
so yeah, it's very dry here, and we've had a particularly dry winter. I'm quite a bit higher than where Chad is in Albuquerque area. We're at like over 7,000 feet. And so we tend to get good snow in the winter and stuff like that, but this year not so much. So it's just been really dry. And so I really have to balance wet enough, but not too wet, and enough airflow, but not so much that then everything is just dry all the time. And that's my biggest challenge, I think, is balancing that. whereas if I were somewhere else, that I wouldn't even have to think about it. Or maybe I'd have to just worry about it being too wet and not it being too dry. And but I don't ever really have any issues with like stuck shed. I mean, sometimes with my snakes, if I missed somebody going into blue, something like that. With the geckos, the only one I have any issues with shedding is one of my male breeders, and he got the end of his tail nipped, so it's like has like a little fork. It's a little double tail, and the shed wants to get stuck on that. But I don't think that would be different if I was somewhere more humid. I think that's just a him thing. I think that's a structural issue now.
Cool. You
So
found
you
your
have
system, you know? You got your
you,
little system.
Yeah.
you have cresties, you
hmm
have gargoyles, and do you have any other species?
I have lychees. I have a
Oh,
couple lychees that I'm growing out. So my theory is like I'm not going to sell anything that I haven't kept and raised myself and where I can't really guide people through the process. Not that there aren't lots of different ways to do things and be successful, but I want to really be able to tell people like this is what works for me. This is what has been working for the animal that I am sending to you. Um,
Same thing.
and so I am growing out a couple lychees. I have four right now. And then I have a couple of chihuahuas that I got relatively recently that I was thinking about selling. I kind of got them like with the idea of, and then they were here for like 30 minutes and I was like, well, you're really cool. I am going to keep you. So I
Well,
don't
I
know
love
ultimately whether I will keep them, whether they will be the ones that I keep long term or not, but I'm going to grow them out for sure before I move them on to somewhere else. And then I just kind of want to see, I know they change a ton. I want to see, how they change. I
first thing with
personally,
selling them is if people don't understand, they automatically think like this, 12-gram baby is supposed to be full of color with a giant white collar at 12 grams and doesn't work like that. And
right.
a lot of the time, I hate to say it, I'm not trying to blow up anyone out there's spot. Just anyone that deals with Chihuahua knows, but a lot of those animals that have bright white collars at 12 grams, they don't stay white. They don't stay white.
Mm.
Those collars will be green. They'll go gray. They don't stay bright white. It's
See,
a
that would be
very
fine with me. I don't like
Mhm.
all the white.
Me
Personally,
neither.
I like the high
me too.
color. I mean, I can appreciate the ones with a bunch of white, but they are not what appeals to me at
Me
all.
either. Yep, absolutely.
So yeah. So I've got them. I've got three pairs of Uris.
Nice. Which locales are you
And
working with? What locales?
they're all the Uri V's,
Okay, I have
Velardes.
one. That's what she is. The Velarde. Yep, one.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're I couldn't tell you why they're the ones that appeal to me the most, but they're like when I look at them, I'm like, all of these kind of look the same, but I like them the best for no, I can't give you an objective reason why, but I think they're the cutest ones. I like them the best.
Are you
And
breeding
then
them yet? Or are you working with them?
I
Sorry.
have a pair
Okay.
that's ready to
Cool.
breed this season that are together. I don't I don't know. We'll see. I'm not I I already had the male in a bioactive, which wouldn't be my ideal setup for breeding, so I put the female in there with him. And they've done great. They're super fun to watch.
Mm.
They're pretty active. I really enjoy them. In terms of breeding, I know that your cleanup crew can go after the eggs, and my chances of finding them are like non-existent. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe someday there will be a baby in there. Um, yeah, and then I have a hybrid, Chihuahua Crusty.
I saw. I
Yeah.
just made my first two this year, man, and it's
Oh,
not.
good for you.
People, you think it's easy. I
No.
cannot tell
Mm-mm.
you how complicated it actually is. It's not
Yeah.
like pairing other animals together. First of all, even if you get eggs, I had a half a dozen clutches that just weren't fertile. It was
Mm,
a 2-season ordeal to get two babies. Out
to
of
get
two
to
full seasons, I got two eggs that were ironically clutch mates that
that worked.
I'm done. I'm done trying. I did it. I just wanted to be
Yeah,
able to, kind of like yourself. I can't give advice on something I haven't done.
that you
I
haven't
need to
done. Yeah.
do it, to raise them. But that's cool. Very cool. How do you like them as a pet?
Um, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's kind of a freak. He was good when he was little. And then he sort of hit some sexual maturity point and was then like a spaz, and he bites me sometimes, and he's enclosure defensive for sure. Once he's
Really?
out, he's fine. He's really beautiful. He's like bright red. He's super cool. He's one of the nicest ones that
Yeah.
I've
I
ever
saw him,
seen.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but I mean, I like to handle my animals. I like to get them out. And he'll chill out on my shoulder, like if I pretend he's not
Mm.
there. But he's not one who like, is gonna chill in my hand while I change his water or whatever. He's like freaking out, and yeah, you know. I'm glad that I have him. I think he's really cool. I feel privileged to be able to have an animal like that in my collection. Is he the world's greatest pet? No, he's not. Um, maybe, when he's got some more maturity on him, that'll help. It's a
Good luck with him.
phase.
That's
I'm
cool.
telling myself it's a phase. I don't know. We'll see. But if
How
he
are
keeps
yours?
Hopefully.
biting me, he's going somewhere else.
Yours are pretty calm, or they're wild child.
I haven't even tried to hold them, bro. They're 2 months old. I just I mean, they hatched in my hand, so they kind of were like they weren't spazzes. They don't I don't really hold them, and that's just because they're so small. I'm nervous, and I have zero problem with it. I mean, I believe in desensitizing my animals, so my dog and all the noise of my house and everything's in clear enclosures, and it's and I don't have any animals with missing tails. I mean, there's noise, let there be noise. If there's whatever, let there be that. And so they're not scared of me. Like if I open up the glass and I'm going in to do something, they'll walk right out on the door, and I just do my thing and scoot them back in. But I haven't actually held them. But they're not particularly. I mean, not spazzy at all. But I mean, I figured that was
Yeah.
just a me thing and how I handle my room. I have no problem running a vacuum in there. I mean, I have enclosures that don't have like a substrate in them. I keep certain crested geckos in with like a separate lay box, and I have this little mini like Amazon vacuum. I'll vacuum the enclosures with the animals in there. Like they don't even, I'm at the point where I'm just like, I'm not going to, and I know it sounds messed up and I don't mean to sound like I'm some monster, but I'm not compensating for their insecurities. Like, get with the program, not going to hurt you. We're here. You,
Well, and
you're
that's
not
where that
prey.
preparing them for the next thing. I mean, if they're going to be some kids, whatever, they need to be with the program, and if they're not, then that's
Mhm.
okay. But you're not doing them any favors by
By
handling them
keeping
with
them secluded,
kid
you're not. You're
gloves.
absolutely not. It's
And I
I
haven't
find it.
had any issues with any of that. I mean, we have two kittens. I went for like 10 years without having a cat. We have two kittens that are like 6 months old, and I call it Gecko TV. Like they love to be in the gecko room, especially at night. I have to call them out of there, and they do, but they're like jumping on the enclosures, jumping. The room that the geckos are in has this like archway thing with it's like a little like bridge. I don't know. It's an architecture thing. It's beautiful, not super practical, not easy to clean. But the cats jump like from the gecko enclosures up to on top of that, and then back down on top of, and they're like jumping onto the baby enclosure, to the grow out enclosures. And it's like, you know what? That's gonna happen. I'm sure, knock on wood, at some point I'm gonna have a tail drop. I haven't. I had one of the
Maybe
Cresties got spooked the other day. The cat chased after it, caught it, still didn't have a tail drop. So,
takes a lot. That's why I
there
try
was
to
no
tell people.
blood.
It's
It was
usually
not, it wasn't that dramatic. But I was like, okay, if this is going to be my first one, it will be well earned, and it's fine.
I'm telling people that, and I don't know what it is. Again, maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it is all that desensitized. I don't know what it is, but you see so many people that are like freaking out, like you cannot touch their tails. And not that I'm up for debating anybody, but I'm always like that's not good information to tell people, like
Yeah.
because that's
I
not
mean, I don't
true.
think we should be
It's not
like
true.
holding them by their
I
tails,
wouldn't.
you
I
know,
wouldn't
like I
grab them
don't
like
think we
it,
should
but
be, you
I,
know,
I get what you're saying. But they use them, and that's my. They're not prehensile for
right,
nothing. Like
right.
they
Yeah, they
use
don't
those,
have the
and they
little
should.
grippies on the end for no reason. Yeah, and
I do with tail workouts with some of mine. Like if I see the slightest sign of like floppy tail syndrome in a crested gecko, I take them out and I quite literally make them wrap their finger around my tail, and I'll flip them over, make them pull themselves up. I'll flip them back over, I make them use the tail, pull themselves back up, and it's like I don't want to say that it does work, but I don't have floppy tail
not
issues.
it's not working. I mean, I've had a couple gargoyles who I wouldn't go so far as to say it's floppy tail. I think it would get there because what they do, it's not so much a curl thing as like they're just lazy and they don't hold their tail up. And so they'll be like hanging on the side of the glass and their tail is like, you know, at a 90-degree angle to their body. And I've had two now who've wanted to do that. And I just, every time I see them do it, I reach my hand in there and I put them down somewhere else. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. And
Don't do
with
that.
both of them, don't do that. We're not doing that. You got to hold yourself up. Sorry, bud.
Do they get
And with
floppy tail? I didn't even know that if I don't. Do they get it?
it kind of gets this like, I mean, yes, I think they
Oh, they
can. I
can.
asked David about it because I was like, what is this crazy gecko doing? And he's like, if they keep doing that, they'll get floppy tail. So I
I
presume
didn't
that
know
they
they
will
could
get
do
floppy
it.
tail.
Okay.
It
Interesting.
to me looks different from like floppy tail and a crusty. It's like they're because they're not holding up their tail, it's almost like the ligaments that would be holding the tail just get lax. So they just are sort of flopping it. Um, but I don't think there's like the same component of like spine, you know, where the end of the body gets contorted, you know, or the tail base or anything. It's just I think it's more like a ligament issue than anything else that's my impression. Somebody correct me if I'm super wrong about that. That's my impression based on what I've seen with mine, and every time I've seen them do that, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And it usually takes like 10 or 15 times of every time I see them doing it, I'll like put them back on the perch or put them on the ground and they stop. You know, they're smart, they'll learn. Like, hey, every time I do that, this lady comes in here and messes with me.
That when you're pairing your gargoyle, are you keeping them 1.1 or
Mhm.
1.2s?
So I've got all mine 1.1 right now. Same thing with my crusteds. I think that people like David, people like Paul, who, you know, they have earned the right to not be able to tell you exactly who the parents are of their animals, especially like Paul, where his whole thing is groups. Um, I haven't, you know, so if I say to somebody like, hey, this is the dad, and it's one of these three females, you know, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to say to somebody, these are the parents. And I've had really good success with one-to-one. I've only so far had one issue where a female got injured, and it was not a serious thing. I just pulled her out until she was healed. And then I set them up in a different enclosure and they've been back together with no problems. I haven't had any issues with overbreeding, anything like that. So I'm going to keep doing one-to-one. That's my plan. Um, I do have a ton of stuff in the enclosures. I've got tons of cork bark, tons of fake plants, tons of egg crate. You know, there's lots and lots of visual barriers, lots of places for them to get away from each other. Um, I sort of ascribe to I heard a podcast one time where Paul was talking about how like it's about the usable space. And so all of
Square
my
footage.
animals are in long, low enclosures because like yeah, they're arboreal, but like that just means they like to climb up stuff. Like in
Almost
my
all
mind,
the
it's
time.
like,
Top is
you
the
know,
top.
you're the
Is the
top is the top, and they want to have stuff to climb up and down, and you can dramatically increase their up and down, if I had the exact same size enclosure, but it was, an 18 by 18 by 24, their actual usable space is smaller because you can't make as much stuff in that enclosure for them to climb up and down. So that's what's worked for me. Um, yeah, I also think we are inclined to give them, for pets, give them too much space and give them, when you see stuff on Facebook, like I have this disclaimer on my Morph Market and on my website, and then I'm going to give to people when they buy stuff at shows. That's basically like, this is what I do. This is what works. There's a lot of really well-intentioned people in Facebook groups. That doesn't mean that's actually what's going to work for your animal. And I saw somebody one time who was going to put their gargoyle in a 4x2x2 enclosure.
The little bed and a TV set.
I don't know. I thought, and she goes, and she said something like, well, I really, I hope he'll still want to socialize with me, or, something to that effect. And I was like, yeah, good luck, lady. You're never going to see him again. Like, he'll be in there, but you're never going to see him, because I think if we want them to stay tame, we want them to be socialized, we need to give them enough space, but not so much space that then that fight or flight is kicked in. That's just a brain thing, right? That's just like, hey, this is a bigger, scarier space. If my space is here and I know here is safe, what do I have to be worried about? Nothing. But if there's all this stuff and there could be something going on over there that is going to eat me and I'm not going to know, and I can't check on all my stuff because it's too big, we're just it's not the same principle as, in my mind, it's not the same principle as some other animals that we work with in the hobby.
It's kind of like different factors on what you want to be. You have your breeder, you have your keeper, you have your pet person, and something on that large scale, I believe that there is a place for it. However, it's got to be with the understanding that you're taking care and keeping to a different level, and you're understanding that by giving the animal this much space, you're kind of seeking that wild nature from it, and
Right.
you want to do those observations, and you want to see how everything interacts. And when you're breeding, you want to be on top of other aspects of care and visually
Absolutely.
seeing
And
the
when
animal.
you're wanting a pet that you're going to be interacting with on a regular basis. That's my take, at least. I mean, I have a 4x2x4 that I know has morning geckos in it. I put them in there and I can see their eggs. I've seen one time since I put them in there. And I know that they're in there, but you're not going to see them. Same thing. I've got dart frogs. Every once in a while, I'll happen to catch one, but it's a heavily planted, they might as well not. It was a very expensive, might as well not be in there. I see them about as often as I would if I went to the zoo. It's just, you just don't, it's not the different goals, different, and I think people have to be really clear about what is it that they're wanting out of the experience? What is it that they're going for? And then don't get guilt tripped by somebody who thinks about things differently or has a different goal
for sure.
from you.
I learned that with my day geckos, actually, right? That was one of the things I went through, and it was a horrible experience. But at first, my breeding pairs, I would, natural bioactives, beautiful plants everywhere, and I'm okay. And I set up all of these tanks for all the babies and natural bioactives, and every time it would come to catch a baby so that I can try to bring it to a show or something, it was horrible. And I had to tear things up and rip plants out. And I said, you know what? This is done.
Not working for me.
You're getting one stick and that's it. And
yeah,
that actually brought my attention to, when I have just the one stick, Now I'm actually catching them on my hand and I'm handling them, and everybody says they're so flighty and all of these things, but I think it's because you're putting them with so much stuff and so much space, because now I'm actually catching them with no problem. I got to go to a show, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
And
because
it,
you've
it made a
shown them that
difference.
they're safe. Like they have that safe environment, and then you coming into their safe space is not threatening.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times we do stuff for us, and I'm certainly guilty of this. I mean, my dogs have like, I don't even know how many toys, hundreds of toys. They play with like one out of all the toys. And sometimes they'll rotate through and you'll see, somebody will start making a guest appearance who hasn't been out for a long time. But like right now, everybody's favorite toy is this like stupid Christmas pickle that, I got out of the like $2, sale bin that makes the worst noise ever. And they've got 100 other things they could be playing with, and all three of them want the Christmas pickle.
Absolutely.
And like I think we do that a little bit where it's like, I want you to have all of that. It will make me feel better if you have all of this stuff. But that's not necessarily, I mean, they don't care.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want food, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're in that bottom layer. They want like safety, they want food, a controlled environment, predictability. That's what makes them feel safe.
Absolutely.
Yep. It's true. It is true. So you just go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron.
No, go ahead, bro.
I already erased it. Go ahead. Go.
What do you do for feeding your collection? Are you in supplementation? Walk us through. We didn't talk about that. We're over an hour. I know I said an hour, but this is what
Oh,
happens.
that's okay.
This is
What,
exactly
um,
what happens.
What
Anthony
talk us
likes to
through the
talk too
feeding.
much.
You're right, but I questions come and come and come. They don't
It's
they
just
don't
so many
stop.
things. Yeah.
Talk
Um,
to us about your feeding regimen, if you will, feeding and supplementation, if you don't mind.
yeah. So, I do keep little calcium dishes in with my breeding pairs. I do that with like I have some leopard geckos. That's standard practice for them. I do that with all of my breeding pairs. It's like, hey, if you want it, it's here. I don't know. I will if I notice a female like kind of get wavy tail or something like that, I'll supplement her with liquid calcium. Um, Other than that, I'm just throwing food at them. I don't overfeed for sure. I feed maybe 3 times a week, probably. I feed my babies more. I probably feed my babies 3 to 4 times a week and feed my adults 2 to 3 times a week. And I mostly feed Pangea, honestly. I have tried to feed other things unsuccessfully. I bought a bunch of Vital Meal. I can't get anybody to eat it. And I don't know if that's like a Garg thing versus a crusted thing, because I've heard people have really good success with it. My crew is not interested. Um, I've been trying, I think it's called Lugardi or something to that effect.
Ugardi. Yep.
Lugardi.
Oh, God.
Because I want to be able to provide folks, especially at shows, who are buying animals with food. And I do not go to enough shows for Pangea to approve me as a vendor. And I can't go to a lot of shows because there aren't a lot of shows.
It's good
I
too when
think
you're
there's
selling
like,
them and putting them in homes. People they'll
right,
adopt different options.
for
Adapt.
sure. Yeah, so I want to be able to offer people something that will work for them. And there just aren't that many shows near me. And so I didn't qualify for that Pangea program. So I'm trying to see if there are other things that I could get them to eat so that and so far I've had some luck with that. It's a little more fruit heavy than I like in my food for the gargoyles in particular. I think they need more protein. So I will also mix in, you can get a cricket flour. And so
Mm.
and it's cheap. on Amazon. It's for humans. And so I will blend that in. My only suggestion with that, if you try it, is use a blender because the clumps in it are crazy and you'll end up fighting with your squeeze bottle. Sometimes even with a blender. But yeah, so that's what I do. I mostly am feeding Pangea. I do, particularly when I'm starting out babies, I will mix in some of the breeder formula because it's higher fat and I want them to kind of get started with a good foundation. But I don't feed that consistently.
Are you using live bugs at all? Are you feeding live bugs?
Some. I strongly dislike crickets. I have a really hard time keeping them alive. And they're stinky when they aren't alive. So I'm trying a new system. We'll see. I don't get any over the winter because it's too cold. It's just like, and then they're too hot in the box and then they're dead from the heat packs and it's just gross. So I did not, like, I was buying like, 100 crickets a couple times a month at PetSmart just for my ones who I know need that, and everybody else I was just putting extra cricket flour in the diet
It works.
because it works and
That's the
it's
beauty of
easy.
them. You
Um,
don't have to.
yeah, yeah, and so like for my hybrid, now that I have the two Chihuahua babies, obviously bugs are more important. So, I'll have to figure out something over the winter that makes sense. But I
They
probably
love
will do the
super
same
worms
thing.
too, though. You could tongue feed
Yeah,
them. They'll eat
super
anything that
worms.
wiggles. I mean, they're
I'm pretty good
easy.
at keeping dubias alive and I don't mind them. Like I kind of feel bad when I feed them because they're kind of cool. I kind of like them. Super worms I don't like. They freak me out a little bit. Um, but yeah. So I mean there's lots. I try to be flexible. I try to find stuff that'll work for me. I'm thinking about it a little bit differently now that I'm producing it and selling babies because I want to create something that somebody else can replicate and that will work for them and that they'll have access to. I don't want to have it like, oh, this proprietary blah 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 that, you can't get or you have to buy this big ass bag for. You have one gecko. I mean, it's when I just had my one little Yuri and then my one Yuri and my one Garg. I mean, you don't go through food, like you almost can't make a small enough amount of food to feed it before you have to make it again, because it goes bad. So I want to do something that works for people and that's easy. They're a super easy pet. I don't want to complicate it for people
For you,
or
love it.
myself.
Love it. Love it.
I have a lot
It's
of balls
huge.
in the air. I've got a lot. I do a lot. I need it to be not hard.
All right, one more topic, I promise.
Yeah, yeah.
Lighting.
No.
I always ask about lighting. I'm curious about lighting
Yeah.
because I just got this new guard. It's someone I was blessed. Lewis from Signature Geckos sent me, and I love this thing. This thing is amazing. And I put it in an enclosure that happens to be on a rack where I have UVB. I never really hear much about people and gargoyles. I use a lot of UVB on my Chihuahuas, but I never really put much thought into it with the Garg. I don't know why, but I put him in there, and he loves this UV light. This Garg is in that UV light all day.
All
So
day.
now obviously running the idea through my head of putting them in, in all of the other enclosures that I don't have them on now. But since you're here and work with mainly Gargs, I'm
Yeah.
curious. Is that something you work with? What's your lighting situation?
So, I don't have a lighting situation. They just have the room light. When I had my one female, she was in a bioactive with UVB and all this stuff, and she wasn't ever out
We have
in it.
screens though, don't you? I mean, if light's getting them,
Yeah.
they're probably getting some.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're like in clear enclosure,
Yeah.
they're not like in boxes. Um, and I do take them not like all the time, but because I've got a lot. But like if I'm taking pictures, I take them outside. We're at over 7,000 feet. The light in New Mexico is really different than anywhere else. So I know, they're getting a lot of UVB when I take them out. Even if that only happens a couple times a year, like that's good stuff for sure. Yeah, but
Like I said, I was just
I've
curious.
not.
You know,
Yeah,
What are you
I haven't seen
noticing
a difference.
with the UVB? Are you noticing any drastic change in color or anything, or are you just noticing it's just like soaking it up?
he loves it. I haven't had him long enough to realize anything else about him other than he is
The
glued
re
to this
the
one
only
spot, laid straight across the UV bar.
the only reason why I ask is one thing I noticed with Cresties using UVB compared to not using UVB is
Mine
some of
hide,
them have fired up some very weird
really,
colors. Yeah, so
really.
that's why I asked with the
The ones
gargoyle.
I have on mine, and I do have the other rack that has a bar on it, and that's just because I had baby chihuahuas in it. They go into the bamboo, bro. They don't, you know, I've seen them out, but not like this Garg or my chihuahuas. They sprawl out like crocodiles in the sun and soak it up. My crested geckos will come and go, or you know, very cryptically bask. I guess maybe even by accident, for all I know, have a limb sticking out or something. But this Garg is sprawled out in it like there's no denying that's what he's doing. I mean, the my chihuahuas also clearly do that. They lay at the highest spot they can get, closest to the UV, and just sprawl out and could care less. They love it. So I
Another
don't know
thing
much
I
about it. This is all new to me. All new to me.
Another thing I noticed with gargoyles, you know what I noticed with gargoyles? A lot of them, I have seen them face up, but a lot of them
Oh, yeah.
perch on the wood face down.
It's because they're predators, bro. They're
Yeah,
predators waiting
yeah,
for baby
Ready
yeah,
crested
to
geckos to
drop
hatch.
in.
They're waiting for crested
yeah.
geckos to hatch and run
Like
up the tree.
whatever.
Without a
Yeah,
doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
Without a
I
doubt. Or
noticed that.
anything to run
Uh,
up the tree.
Another thing
They're
also,
predators.
I'm gonna just throw this out there before I forget because I meant to say it. There's not a lot of shows in New Mexico.
Mhm.
However, there's a show every day on Palm Street.
That's
Hey.
true.
Hey,
And I
hey.
am an approved Palm Streeter.
There we go.
I'm scheduled for mid-May, because I've got a show here in town at the beginning of May. So I scheduled for mid-May. I felt like I needed to know like what I was going to have, what I needed kind of going into in person, before I did a pump. I didn't want to end up with then like nothing for Albuquerque. And who knows,
Yeah.
that might be like a total bust. I have no idea. It's a brand, this is, like I said, there was the one in October of last year, and then this is the first spring one. So this is only the second show in the past 20 years. So um, we'll see.
Yeah, that's
I
going
have
to
a
be
good feeling
interesting.
about it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think
what
it'll
the,
be
the
good.
how
I'm
the
And
excited.
audience. I mean, how was the turnout though? There was a lot of people from what I gather, right? It was a pretty
Yeah,
rocking
so
show.
I just I wasn't vending last time. I went to be supportive. I have some friends who were vending. Chad was vending, and some of my other friends were there, and so I went during the VIP, and there were a ton of people there just during that first hour.
Maybe they'll see that.
I hope so. I mean, so New Mexico's kind of a funky, the way our rules are is sort of weird, like what you can have. And so we have a positive list, which is a bummer. But it's only for what you can bring in. So like if you have stuff that's already here, or you get approval to bring it in from the Game and Fish, it's like then it's fine. So there was a guy there that was selling water monitors because his stock was from here. Like he had approval to have them here. But then there's other stuff where it's like, oh, you can't bring in, you have to have a class 3 license to bring in a hognose or a, false water cobra or what, there's like all this stuff where it's like, well, why that? And there's other stuff where it's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Anything big you're not allowed to have or you're not allowed to bring in, but a lot of people have them because they had them from before. And I don't know. I don't have
Somehow it all
anything.
revolves around money. Someone's palms getting greased or something because it's
Yeah,
absolutely makes zero sense if
it
you're
makes
an
no
animal person
sense to
or
me. Yeah, and it's like a positive list and a negative list, so that we have a positive list. So it's like you can have these things, and then it's all organized with like one, two, three, or four in terms of like what kind of licensure you have to bring them in. And this is true. It's not just for reptiles. This is true for aquatics and birds and exotic animals and all kinds of stuff. Basically anything that isn't regulated by the livestock board. You have to have it goes through Fish and Game. And then it says anything that's not on this list, you can't have, is a 4 and you can't have it. And so it's like a positive and a negative, and it, it's only as creative as the person who wrote it. So there's all kinds of stuff where I'm like, well, why isn't that on, like, that's not a big deal. It's like, well, why isn't that on the list? It's because the person at Game and Fish who was writing it didn't know about whatever, but like a shingleback skink which I would love to have and like will never be able to find. That's a 1, because when it was written in the 90s, they were around and they're like, that's like a blue tongue. That's fine. No big deal. Whatever. They can, you can have that. So,
That's crazy.
and then there's other stuff like indigos where they're like, oh, well, those are endangered in Florida, so you can't have those. I'm like, well, how does it being endangered in Florida, like, not that I would want a big falubrid myself, but
Beautiful snakes, though.
they're beautiful.
They are.
Not for me. But yeah, you can't, like anything that's on a protected list, you can't have a chuckwalla because they're protected. I mean, it's just like, it's weird. There's weird rules. Weird rules.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's why we haven't had a reptile show in forever, because the rules are weird and it's hard, especially for people coming in from out of state. But there were people there, I mean, with all kinds of stuff from out of state. So I don't know if.
Are you so you're on Palm Street. Are you on Morph Market?
I am. Yeah.
Nice. And we also just did our website, right?
Yes, I do have a website. I don't have anything on my website yet, but I made it. I started. I am not a particularly tech savvy person, so it was a thing for me to do it. It was not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
You're tech savvy for you to get this far. You got this far. There's some people that they're not able to do this. So it's a venture. It's a venture.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I'm definitely going to list, I've got a couple things up on my Morph Market. And I will update my website, I think kind of after this upcoming show, after my upcoming Palm Street, when I have a better sense of like, what am I going to have available?
Awesome.
Because it's going
to
take me some
effort. Guys, here's the website. Check out our website.
Yeah.
Check out our Morph Market, Palm Street. Follow, like, support. Come on, guys. We gotta, help each other here. Support each other. This is awesome.
Thank you.
She's taking an effort to be, better and contribit to the hobby.
I'm very active on Instagram with all of my beasties.
Love it.
Yes, and there's all kinds. We've got dogs, cats, geckos, snakes, horses, birds.
Very cool. You have birds also?
Yep. Yes, lots. We have 6 parrots, so I wouldn't recommend that to anyone who is not there. They're a lot of work.
Do you have an African gray?
No, my parents have an African gray. I have, our biggest is a Senegal parrot. And she's about 25 years old. I've had her since I was in junior high. And she's great with me, and she is a colossal pain in the butt with everybody else. Cannot be trusted. She lures men in and then she bites the shit out of them. She's just terrible. She's just awful. Yeah, she's my girl. She's been around for a long time, but she's
awesome.
She's sassy.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, she's a piece of work. She she hates my dad. So one of the things that we haven't talked about, but that we touched on earlier, Mark, was the intelligence thing. So people are like, oh, reptiles aren't smart, and like birds and reptiles, not that divergent from each other. Birds don't have the same structures in their brains that mammals do, but nobody's like, oh, birds are dumb. So this bird, Josie is her name. She's my Senegal parrot. I've had her since I was a kid. She and my dad were big buddies. And then we got an African gray, and my dad liked the gray better. And so he started holding the gray after dinner instead of her. She, to this day, if she has the opportunity, she will stalk and bite the ever loving crap out of my dad. Like blood. I mean, the whole thing. Like it's been 25 years and she has not forgiven him. And she has then extended that hatred to all men. And so she and my husband have like an understanding. He brings her food and she doesn't bite him while he's putting food in her cage for her. But any other opportunity, right? Isn't that, she's a generous goddess. So like the kids one time didn't get her enclosure closed all the way. And she came down. We were all in the kitchen. She climbed down, came over to me. I was sitting on the floor. She came over and she was sitting with me and she was being fine. And my husband was making dinner for the kids. And she waited for like 15 minutes until he was getting something out of the oven. So like had something hot in both of his hands. And then she flew at him to like go after his ankles when she knew he couldn't do anything. Like they're smart. They are so much smarter than we give them credit for. So, and I put reptiles in that category too. I mean,
there's a name. I forgot the name. I don't know if it was the name of the test or something, but the water and the stones, right? Did it with monkeys. They did it with something else, and they also used a raven, who are notoriously intelligent. Yeah. And the raven can get what's at the bottom of the glass by taking the stones and dropping them in and raising the water level. I've watched storks on National Geographic fish. They'll catch a fish, and then they use that fish for bait. They'll put it on top of the water, they let it float, and they'll grab it back. They literally fish with the bait, and then they'll grab the big fish coming up to underneath to eat it. They're not. For anyone that thinks birds are stupid, you should probably take an IQ test yourself.
Yeah, they're not. We've got a bunch of ravens around here and they're incredibly smart and they recognize particular people. So my parents live here and my mom was feeding them and then my parents ended up moving to Denver. And so I tried to like keep up what she'd been doing for the ravens and they stopped coming. Because even though I was giving them the same thing, they were like, you're not the same person. Yeah. And like we've got horses in our back and the ravens come to them and you'll see them like playing. We've got these big like corrugated metal shade structures and they get on them and bang, 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 they get on them and they play and they're
very smart
animals. We don't give them enough credit. I don't think so.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk. I almost forgot. I mentioned it to mention it. But I got so intrigued by how you're looking at the animals and stuff. But let's talk about that intelligence with reptiles. You made quite the post the other day, and I thought that was interesting. And
I did.
I wanted for you to elaborate on it for everybody.
So I made a video. We have this leopard gecko who really likes to come out of his enclosure. He's in our living room. And if my husband and I are watching TV or something, he comes up to the glass and wants to come out, wants to come sit with us on the couch and likes to hang out. And I made a video about it. And I will say the vast majority of the responses that I get are positive. And I don't know why. I mean, it's like the typical social media thing. I don't know why that out of all of the videos I've ever made, like that's the one. It has like exponentially more views and comments and engagement than anything I've ever made. And it's not brilliant. It's fine, but it's not like the greatest video of all time. And I will on a really regular basis get kind of broy guys who are like, reptiles don't have feelings. You don't know what you're talking about, that sort of thing. And it just, I sort of reached this like critical mass with it the other day where I was like, you guys are driving me crazy with this. And I think we want to apply. One of the reasons people are like, oh, birds are smart is because we can give them tests. We can do things with them. We can observe things with them that we we relate to as human things, right? So like Josie, my bird, she's jealous, she's jaded, she's, she has a vendetta against the men in the house. And we can observe that is like us. We're like, oh, I know people like that, or I've been like that, or whatever. Reptiles, it's different. And so I think people have a hard time, even though their brains are really different, people really want to focus on like those differences because they don't, like, birds use language that seems like us. There are fewer things with reptiles that seem like us. But essentially they have all of the same structures in their brains that we do. They don't necessarily look exactly the same. So they're not like identical. They're equivalent structures, equivalent neurotransmitters to what we have and what other mammals have, with the exception of a prefrontal cortex. And your prefrontal cortex, in my estimation, and I'm a mental health therapist, so I sort of know about the brain, is the thing that allows us to make meaning of our feelings, make meaning of our input. But that is not the part of the brain that causes us to have feelings or causes us to have intelligence. It's the thing that causes us to think about those things. So, like, reptiles are smart. They can learn. We talked about the floppy tail thing. If they didn't learn, my going in and every time I see somebody with a tail hanging down, moving them to where they're sitting where they don't have their tail all lazy, that wouldn't make a difference if they couldn't learn. So, they do have the capacity to learn. And I think when we have the capacity to learn, when we have the capacity to like or dislike something, and like we talked about food, they absolutely like and dislike particular kinds of food and have opinions about that. They might not be sitting there thinking like, ugh, I don't like this, watermelon, whatever, where's the fig and insect? But they are going to sit there and think like, oh, I don't like this, I'm not going to eat this. And so they're not unintelligent. It just they don't have the capacity to like pre-plan that some animals do, that humans do. And they're not having an existential crisis like we are.
I want to
They're
show you
not.
guys something.
Yeah.
Watch. I want to show you. This is on my YouTube channel, just for everyone that thinks they know something. Watch this. Just watch. This is Queensland University. They take a bearded dragon and they give him a couple mealworms behind a locked cage. They show it to him. He can't get to him. They take this same bearded dragon and they show him a video of another bearded dragon who has been trained to open this cage. Then they put him back in front of the cage, and on the first try, he unlatches the latch and gets the mealworm.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I have this debate with people all the time. I'm like, you're clearly not watching your animals. They're quite literally made and evolved to problem solve. We live a very cushy life, right? And don't have to solve nearly as many problems as wild animals do. It's hard to see the value here, but if you guys, both of you get a chance to watch this, you should, because it's absolutely amazing. Now
That's
he watches
super cool.
He goes right to the cage. First try. In there, how
That's
you doing?
amazing.
Done deal. Queensland University. This is an official study. Now, again, the problem is, and I've dug deep into this, when these universities do a lot of these studies on reptiles, they fail to realize that they are cold-blooded animals. And 90% of the documented studies that have been done with reptiles have been done when they're cold and their brains are quite literally not working. So, some newer studies, they have, obviously got hip to that and started doing studies on warm animals, but what was going on?
That's super cool. I mean, we used to think that we were the only ones that used tools and that was like what made us as humans better than other animals. And we know more intelligent than other animals. We know that that's not true now. There's lots of animals, including birds and that use tools and that form strong social bonds. There's all these things that we used to think were uniquely us. I'm sort of the mindset that like maybe what is uniquely us is the capacity for like existential crisis. That like that I think is uniquely us. But all the other stuff when people are like, "Oh, your gecko's glass surfing, oh, he's whatever." I'm like, "No, I think he understands that that is the thing that is in between him and what he wants to do, which is be
Absolutely.
out." I mean, I've only, knock on wood, ever had a snake get out one time. I didn't put the lock on his enclosure. I still, to this day, I have no idea where he was. He was out, and I went to bed. I was like, okay, fine. Like, I've looked everywhere. Of course, my husband was out of town because all the things happen when your significant other's out of town. And I looked everywhere, couldn't find him. I'm like, okay, well, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I have to go to bed. I have to work tomorrow. And I heard the dogs, maybe 15 minutes later, the dogs started making a fuss at the door. And I opened the door and he's out there and he's clearly trying to figure out how to get back. Like he's back at his enclosure, but it was a second story one, so he couldn't get up there. But like he went back, he did whatever it was that he was doing and he went back to his spot. That is intelligence, knowing where your place is and, having a preference about what you like, them choosing to like, and I would be curious with the gargoyle you were talking about. If the UVB is off, does he still like that? Like, does he like that spot because of the UVB or does he like that spot because he likes that spot? Because
Second I turn it off, he takes off.
he moves, he goes somewhere else. Okay. So like, that's intelligence. I want this thing. I know I like this thing. I want this thing. I think there's so much more to them than we
No,
give
there is.
them credit for. I think them trusting us, some of the socialization stuff we were talking about, them learning that we're safe and that they're not prey. I mean, the gargoyles don't think that they're prey, but some of the other ones, like them learning, them having a preference for like, oh yeah, I would like to come out. That's intelligence. And just because it doesn't look exactly like ours doesn't mean that they're not smart, that they don't have feelings. People get really like, oh, they can't love you. And it's like, well, why not? They have all of the equivalent structures in the brain. I see my pairs of geckos bonding and bonded with each other, choosing to hang out together. All of my crested pairs, well, maybe not all of them, I would say 95% of the time, they've got tons of places, tons of hides. There's all sorts of places they could be. They are together. And I
And
personally
on a
think that
larger
that's a choice.
on a larger scale, you start to see that difference where, oh, look, these two love each other, whereas
Hmm.
these two, they sleep away from
Not
each
so
other.
much. Yeah.
And yeah, you start to, whoa, what's going on here? That's interesting.
Right. Yeah. They have choice, and we see it with other animals. I think we just want it to not be true. Some people, not us, not the three of us, obviously, but some people struggle with that with reptiles. But just because their stuff looks different from ours, looks different from a mammal, doesn't mean it doesn't work. Snake lungs look really different from mammal lungs, but they still work. Um, yeah, I think
They
think
have
it's cool stuff.
feelings. They have
They
feelings. They have
do, they
different
do. And
personalities.
choice
Um,
preferences, and yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I ended up getting into gargoyles because I like them. My first gargoyle, she's my least favorite out of all of them. Like personality wise, she's my least favorite one because they do have different personalities and it's not just like fight or flight. Like she's kind of cranky. She's kind of a cranky bee and she doesn't want to be bothered. Um, and and I have other ones who are like, "Oh, I'd love to come, I'd love to come hang out." Like I can put them on something and leave them. And I have accidentally done that. Like I had to leave for an emergency the other day, and like I came back, I'm like, oh, I totally left that gecko out on that thing. And like she was still there.
That's cool.
So like she's
That's
not worried about it.
yeah. That's what I was telling you to do with your chameleon, Ant. Just have the stick behind you and just leave the chameleon there while you're filming and stuff.
Once
Just
I
That
get
would
it
be
set up
cool.
in here, I will. Yeah, once
yeah,
it's set
that'll,
up in here, for sure. I just don't want to get burnt on lights and stuff in the other room, but in here I will. I'll build a perch or something.
yeah, that's cool.
All right, guys, we are at an hour and 40 minutes now. So
we have to talk for at least another hour to meet
Yeah.
the minimum standard, right?
The
Wind it
sad thing
down.
with that is though, and I hate to say it, and I always tell Mark, which sucks, and I you know, creating content is something that I don't do right well. It is something that I have to do, so I've had to learn how to do it. But when I do anything, I typically try to do it the best I can. So I started digging into a lot of statistics and a lot of the numbers and stuff that goes along with creating content. And it really sucks because like me and Mark, when we're not recording, can talk for hours upon hours and upon hours.
Sure.
But unfortunately, the sad truth about, I guess, society or people's, maybe it's a time, whatever it is that if anything over an hour, like you can get great views, right? Views and I forget the name of it, but it'll show you attention, you know, how many people make it to how far through a video. After you get to an hour, it almost seems like people don't ever watch it. And now I've done it, you know, not that this one's not, but I've done podcasts in the past with people like, say, for Paul, for example, where some of the best information in that podcast does not come until damn near the last hour of 3 hours, you know? And when we started doing this, or I started doing this, I was super adamant about getting everything that everybody says heard. I was like, I want everything that people say to be heard and to be seen. And it almost seems like an insult and a slap in the face when I do these podcasts with people. And it sucks because we don't necessarily really have a time limit. Like we don't ever shut anybody off. We never said, hey, this is a cutoff time, we're done. We talk. But the sad part about that is that when we get to a certain time, people never see it. They never see it. They never see it, and there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, Mark brought the idea up of like, yo, split them into two. Split it up into two episodes.
I think though, it's more. You don't know if they get to see it or not, and you'll have people that are not
statistics. They show statistics on the channel through the YouTube studio. You watch.
Yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is first is the longevity of the podcast and introducing who we are and what we're bringing to the table. And as people, same way like Reptile, as they get trained to know, oh, these videos do have some gems and jewels, you know. I go back and watch a podcast that was filmed 3 years ago, and I'll go watch it today.
Me too.
So it's not in the moment right now, but it can happen in the future that C3 may be the most famous gargoyle breeder in 3 years, and they're like, well, I'm going back to that New Cow Corner podcast, and I gotta watch that interview they did with her. You know what I'm saying? And some 1 hour, some 2 hours, some 3 hours, but it's the engagement, it's the content, you just never know, bro.
Well, I get it, and that's why I do it. That's why I don't shut people off. It just sucks because I could sit there and say, hey, we talked about this in this podcast, you didn't see it, and they're like, oh, well, you know, I didn't get that far, or I didn't do something. It really doesn't affect me one which way or another. It's more out of respect for guests, I guess. I feel bad that people don't get heard when I want them to be heard. And it makes no difference to me when I'm talking to people. I mean, in the most respectful way possible, like with Paul, selfish as it sounds, it's sad because I know there's a lot of information people didn't see, like where he talks about morning geckos and male morning geckos. Like, and I talk to people about it all the time. Cool. And people are like, oh, I didn't see that, or I didn't get that far. And I'm like
that wasn't even that far into it. If they're not getting that far, then that's on them. I think a lot of it has to do with how the information that we're exposed to. I know. Yeah, I think people are just so used to short form now. And so you know, because the same amount of time somebody will spend, and I'm certainly guilty of this myself, you know, scrolling on Instagram, you know, reelsing as we do, for 3 hours, you know, and like that 3 hours is like whatever. It goes by so, oh my God, how is it 9 o'clock already? I
Instant
haven't done anything.
gratification.
You know, it's that it's hitting different parts of your brain, and it's lighten things up in a different way. And you know, it's kind of a bummer. We miss out
See,
on a lot.
59% of our followers, 59% of our followers watch 1 hour or less. 13% watch 1 hour or greater. So it's like
Wow.
they're strange statistics. If you down like if you have Mark, you create
Yeah,
YouTube stuff.
for me
YouTube
though, for me
Studio,
what
YouTube
I
Studio.
see what I see with those statistics is it's
They're
our
irrelevant.
fault.
They're
No,
irrelevant. They
no.
don't mean
No, no,
anything.
no, 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 no. They do mean something. But what I take from it is it's our fault that that is happening, and how can we flip that around? Statistics can be changed. We have to figure out how to change it. You get me?
It's a
So it's
trend.
not
It's
that
like
they're not watching the 3 hours. It's what are we doing that they're not watching the 3 hours? And let's change that and get them to watch the 3 hours.
they don't have enough geckos. I love them. Like
I
when I
don't
get a
know.
gecko room, I'm dead
I
serious.
don't
Like
know.
all I look for is things where I don't
That
have to touch my phone. I just want to leave something on that's like on topic with something
eh,
I care
yeah,
about
I keep it
or
playing.
like,
Me
and
too.
just leave it alone. You know, and that was my whole well, one of the main reasons with wanting to create long form content and having these interviews with people and doing this stuff is, you know, I again, I mean, not that we've gotten any bad feedback. We haven't. I mean, every podcasts are great. I
I've been
love watching
staying
them. It's
more
long
quiet. When you guys
gecko
yelling at me for
cleaning.
taking 3 hours, I've been keeping quiet a little bit, man.
Well, I know.
So
Well, Mark will go 18 hours straight, and it just doesn't. I got to go to work. I got to work. I got to feed a
It's
dog.
stuff
I
to
got to
do.
lay. I got to. You know, I wish I could, but I can't possibly do 12-hour episodes. That's 12-hour
That
Palm
might be
Streets,
pushing
maybe.
it a little. Palms.
Well, who
See,
was it?
that's
Somebody
different.
did like 24 hours straight, and I was like, "That's cool,"
24.
but I couldn't watch
Black
it. Yeah,
River
somebody did
Aquatic
24
Obsession
hours.
did like 118,000 days
What, straight on a
back to back.
podcast?
Yeah. No, on a Palm Street.
But
On a
yeah,
Palm
like,
Street.
there's no. I mean, I don't know how
They
you
went
do that.
live for like 108. I believe they broke the Guinness Book of World Records and everything
Oh,
like that.
well, you're
Yeah.
serving a purpose. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you
I
watch
mean,
when you're cleaning? Do you have like a preference?
Um, I usually listen to podcasts.
Really?
I'm a listener. I don't, and even like, I'll even like have reruns of TV shows that I've watched before, and I'll listen to them while I'm doing, because like if I'm cleaning, I'm not watching. If I'm doing a good
You're
job
right.
of
You're
cleaning,
absolutely
I'm
right.
not
I'm
watching.
hardly watching either. I'm
Um,
definitely listening. Well, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I definitely like to listen to things like that. You know, I like to learn about the things that I care about. I'm also a big like crime junkie. I like to true crime stuff, books. I read like crazy. I probably read at least a book a week, maybe more, sometimes like two or three.
Awesome.
So sometimes, I like to listen to books too. So sometimes I'm audibling um, while I'm
What do you
cleaning.
use for like platform do you use to listen to podcasts? Do you use anyone in specific like
I
Spotify
use
or
Apple
you do?
because it's easy. Yeah. I
So
mean,
I was
I know
telling you,
that
Mark, I got to get him
not
back on there. The other
everything.
podcast I
Yeah.
do is on there, and I just for
Hmm.
some reason I was like, again, the analytics and the statistics. I was like, it's not really doing much better than other platforms. I was like, so I'll just do this one.
I
But
mean, I would listen to it more if it
see,
was on if it was on Apple Podcasts. I
I
don't
will, I will, I
I
will
don't
put it
like
there.
all the ads on YouTube and the like skip it. And it's like, well, if I'm not watching it, then I don't want to have to go find my phone and skip it.
yeah.
So I find that to be that
Excuse
interrupts
me, Anna.
my process a little bit. But yeah, I do Apple Podcasts.
That's what again, like I said, it's not, and it's not even complicated. Spotify, I could. The last ones were uploaded all at once. I had them set up like this platform, Riverside. You can pretty much set it up with some weird like account numbers. You have to find like these numbers. I don't even know what they're called, but like for the individual platforms, you just put it on and you can just upload to all platforms at once.
Cool.
And I technically should have done it a while ago and I haven't, because again, I feel terrible, you know, like when I talk to people and it doesn't get heard, it's almost like disrespectful. Like when you're talking to someone and they're like, oh, my attention span's gone, so I'm not going to listen to you. I'm like, it's
Yeah,
terrible. It's
maybe.
terrible.
Or the people who are listening, that the 13% who are
Mm,
listening to it all the way through are really getting something valuable out of that. And if they don't have the opportunity to do that, then they're missing out.
true.
And
This is true.
so, you could reframe that for yourself
Mm,
around like, what is it like to give the other people the opportunity to hear it for that whole
sure.
time? And if somebody is missing out on valuable information because their attention span, if somebody missed out on the cool morning gecko thing, that's on
Kind
them.
of a them problem, right? It's a you problem. The
Yeah.
information's there. We're putting it out there. You know, it's like I said,
Yeah. And
not one of
people
these
watching
episodes
is
has been an
just
hour.
a bonus, like, I mean, of course, great. I hope that people find me and other guests through watching the podcast, but like I'm here because I like you guys, and it's fun to talk to people who care about the same things that I care about. Not because, and I think it's a fundamentally different way of thinking about social media. Like I post the things that I like, that, like I make content that's the kind of stuff that I would want to watch. And every once in a while I'll make something else that's like out of curiosity. Like I want to see how this lands. And it often will land better. And I sort of don't like, I'm like, okay, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna, for me, it's just a learning thing. I'm like, okay, people do like that. People do like it if there's something, some dissension around it, or some conflict, or, people are drawn in by the drama. I'm a super low drama person, so I'm not gonna make drama so that more people will like my social media posts. I'm there because I like cool animals, and I just, same thing, like, I'm sure you noticed, like, most of my stuff is of my animals. It's not authentic to me to like be holding a gecko in front of my face. I see a lot of people make content like that. I certainly could, and I have some stuff where you can see me, and quite frankly, the stuff where you can see me does a lot better than the stuff that where you can't. But I'm not going to change what I'm doing in its entirety. I mean, there's some balance of like, well, there's a business aspect to this, and what do I need to do for that? But you got to do the stuff that you like to do. It's like what we were talking about with breeding. Like, you got to breed the stuff. If you don't like it, don't make it.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect world. I
and
wish.
you have people on the show who you want to talk to, who you think are going to be interesting, and hopefully they're coming here because they want to talk to you because you guys are interesting. And we're all interested in the same things. And if the only thing they're here for is like, hey, I want somebody to listen to me for the full time that I'm talking, that's not a super healthy perspective, like that's narcissism, not, that's not anything other than ego. And I at least don't have any interest, I'm not bringing any ego really into any of my work, particularly this. I know I'm not the
It's
expert in
awesome.
any of it.
That's
I'm
it's
just here to
good.
learn and
So we
talk to
should.
cool
So we try
people
to do.
and
So we want everyone
hang
to
out with cool
also
animals.
realize that no
Yeah.
matter how much you know, how long you've been in here, you can absolutely learn something from every person that does the same thing you do. Like I
Yeah.
promise you, not everyone does everything the same. And if an idea sparked and you do something a little bit different and it changes your the way you keep your whole collection, like I mean that's a huge part of this too, is we want people to see again there's so many
From
more
different
ways than one way to skin
perspectives.
a cat, like we don't all have to do it with like those, there's certain breeders out there that this is the way and the only way. If you don't do this, you're doomed. It's clearly not true, clearly not true. You have dozens of people that do it successfully, dozens of other ways.
So hopefully you guys watch to the end, and we appreciate you and you learned something from this podcast.
And we came to the conclusion while you were gone, Mark. And if you don't, that's a big you problem. It's a big you
Yeah, you
problem.
missed out.
That's what I say. Like, if you don't, that's on. It's just like when you're doing research. If you only gonna go to the table and ask this one guy a question and accept his answer, and you stopped there, and you didn't continue to read books and ask other people questions, and that's on you. Like, jeez.
What do you, Chase?
So your next show is May?
Yeah, so I will be at the Albuquerque Show Me show the first weekend in May, and then I have a Palm Street Live scheduled for mid-May. I feel like I should know that off the top of my head. One moment.
Yeah, that way.
May 14th is
May 14th.
my
May
first
14th,
Palm
guys.
Street Live.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think you'll like it. It's fun.
How it goes.
It's really, really fun. It really is. I think that I haven't watched a Morph Market or done a Morph Market live yet.
You froze, and
you guys froze?
Uh-oh.
What happened?
Well, right at the end.
You guys hear me?
All right, so we got the Show Me show. We
you guys
got
hear me?
Palm Street, and then once we're done with those two,
you guys hear this?
update to
I'm
the
gonna
website.
update my website. Yeah. I've
Chase,
got a couple
get down.
animals up on Morph Market right now,
Chase,
but
please,
not
Can you guys hear me?
representative of what I've got to offer. Just a couple things I put up. Yeah.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, and feel free to message me on Instagram. I'm relatively
hear me,
active
Mark?
on
If you can
that,
hear
and
me,
I'll
do
get back to
something.
you even if I check my messages. So if you have questions, disagree with me about something, are looking for an animal, send me a message. I'm happy to chat with you.
All right, guys. So now, well, thank you for watching the New Cow Corner podcast. I hope this can upload, and you guys have a blessed day. Thank you for coming on. And hopefully after that, he can edit all of this because he got kicked and I can't stop the podcast.
Oh, dear. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was really fun.
Of course.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Hold on
Thanks.
1 second, because
Okay.
I don't want you to jump off and it erases. Let me just call him and make sure what's going on. All right. You're gonna. All right.
Here we go. Yo.
So let's get it to a point. Let's get it to a point where you can edit that little mishap and erase it. You know
Yo, what the fuck?
Probably his internet. It's still recording. I think you're doing great, Connor. Like you
Thank you.
really, really impressed me today.
Thanks.
I said, wow.
I'm trying. I mean, I wanted to do, if I was going to do it, I should do it right.
Yeah, no, that's great to see. Well, if you do get back in, then just try to press stop recording because I don't want it to erase.
And if it does, we'll just have to do it again.
What's going on?
We just have to do it again.
Yeah, we'll just not tonight, but some other time, and we'll make it better.
Yeah.
I have full Wi-Fi. I don't understand what's going on. That's never happened. I mean, I've been kicked out, but not like that. Yeah, I don't even have the option. Oh, I do have the option to stop. All right, well, we can edit this together then. You want to close it out, Mark? Just so I don't know what's going on right now, so we gotta be careful.
Yeah, so so we have a starting point to edit from. Yeah, so we got your in-person reptile show in May. We have Palm Street coming in May. Check the website, because after the Palm Street, we're going to do some updates, and you can also be found on Morph Market, and the best way to contact you is Instagram.
May
Yes, sir.
14th, Palm
Yep.
Street. Remember that one.
May 14th.
May
Yeah.
May 14th, Palm
Be there.
Street. Thanks, Connor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys. It was
thank you.
great. Yeah.
Guys, peace.
Peace.